So, welcome y'all to this B.I.G. on a French civilization. So, B.I.G. I was thinking of Notorious B.I.G., the famous rapper, when I was also thinking about this guy. So I thought, oh no, you can use the G for guide as well. So let's try to put that joke into the title, just for our explanation video about the French civilization. So, let me tell you how the videos build up. We've got a short introduction. You're looking at it now. We've got a short self-introduction of me, because a lot of people don't know me. Then we're going to talk about the French civilization in general, just what kind of units do they have and what are their perks, benefits, disadvantages. After that we're going to look at some build orders. We've got like 4 or 5 build orders to talk about from some pro players, and I'm just going to analyze them, show them, talk a little bit about them. Then we're going to talk about some follow-ups and some generalization to say from all the games I played and analyzed, and just some common decisions. So what you're gonna encounter, how you can react, and what your personal preferences are. And then we're gonna close the video. So first things first, the self-introduction of me. So I'm Bart, in-game Opvlam. I'm 34 years old, got a wife and 2 kids, and have been playing games since I was a little kid. I started out with games like Cosmo and Commander Keen and Paperboy, and shortly after that I got into RTS with Dune 2, Settlers 2, and been gaming a lot. I haven't gamed that much between 20 and 30, played a lot of football then, but been into gaming since a couple of years again, and since like 6 months, 8 months, I'm totally in Age of Empires 4. So that's why I decided to make a guide about it. So we had this little introduction, we had my self-introduction. Let's look at the French civilization in general. So I'm gonna make myself a little bit smaller again. So let's look at my webcam and make myself a little bit smaller. And let's look at my background and make that a little smaller. So if you perhaps have noticed, my background is a classroom, because I'm a teacher at primary school. In Dutch you would say I have grade 7. Those are kids of like 11 years old, and I teach them all sort of stuff like language, spelling, math, handicrafts, and that's my day-to-day job. And now here I'm explaining Age of Empires 4 to you guys. So we're gonna look at the French civilization in general. So let's pop right in. I already had a skirmish game ready, but we're gonna look at our civilization first, the French civilization. So we're gonna keep it practical. We're gonna talk about stuff that you're gonna encounter in 1v1s, talk about the good stuff, and we don't really gonna look at the other stuff that you don't see that much in ranked games. So the French civilization, famous for the cavalry, mounted combat. You got that early knight and feudal age. We're gonna talk about that later a little bit more. We have faster villager and scout production. So each age is a little bit faster. It starts out with 10% in the Dark Age, 50% feudal age, and 20% at castle and imperial age. Our economic tax are a lot cheaper with 30%. So if you get specialized pick, double barracks, horticulture, you only pay 70%. That's a big benefit. Our resource drop-off buildings like the mill and the lumber camp and the mining camp are 25 wood cheaper. So in a really early game, like the first 2 minutes, that's a lot of resources you're gonna spare. Trade posts are nice to see on the mini-map, because you know that the opponent won't be in the neighborhood of the trade post. And melee tags are free, so if you build a blacksmith, you're immediately gonna get that decarbonization, and if you go to the second age, you immediately get that extra +1 melee attack. So something special about the keeps. If you build a keep and you put archery ranges and stables around them, that's called the influence. They are 20% cheaper. So if you put 5 stables around a keep, you can produce 6 knights for the price of 5. The unique units, we're gonna talk a little bit about them if we go to the right side of the page, but the Royal Knight and the Arbiter are two really strong and unique units between the friends. So, if we're gonna look at the ages, the first age, the Dark Age, there's really not really much to tell about the Dark Age if you play the French Civilization. There's nothing the Dark Age offers which we really like. Even wheelbarrow, we tend to take wheelbarrow in the feudal age because we wanted to go feudal age as fast as possible. So our first priority is going feudal age and wheelbarrow next. You see some civilization going wheelbarrow as early as possible. We don't want to do that. We want to get in that feudal age as fast as possible. So to go up to the feudal age, you got two landmarks of choice, and the choice is always gonna be School of Cavalry. The School of Cavalry acts like a stable, and all your stables gonna produce units 20% faster. So if you make 6 knights in the same, if someone else makes 5 knights, you can make 6 knights. So we built a School of Cavalry to go to that second age as fast as possible. So you get to the second age, feudal age, and you've got those royal knights, unique to the French. So what makes them better than the early knight of the Rus? Because Rus also has this early knight. Well, we got a damage bonus for after charging for like 5 seconds. That's plus 3 damage. So practical, you have like 3 seconds of plus 3 damage after charging because you got a little bit delay in it. You got heavy armor, you got 3 melee armor and 3 ranged armor, and it's classified as a heavy melee cavalry. And last but not least, what makes the Royal Knight supreme over the Rus early knight is the tech Chivalry. If you research Chivalry, your knight's gonna generate 1 health every second when it's out of combat. So for example, you're waiting with your knights, like 3 knights, and they all got like 60 damage. Then if you take them out of combat while doing other stuff like macroing or building a keep or redistributing villagers, after a minute they are all on full health again. And 3 knights regenerating 60 health, that's just as much health as a 4th knight. So the value is immense. And that's what makes the Royal Knight way better than the early knight of Rus. Other civilization even has knights or lancers, how they are called, in the castle age. So we've got them age sooner, and we've got this terrific chivalry tech that's gonna produce immense value for our health pool, because most units in Age of Empires 4, if they get damage, the damage stays on them. Scouts are an exception. Scouts do regenerate health, and most RTS games have health regeneration mechanics, but Age of Empires doesn't. So chivalry is really good. This Royal Knight's gonna be your bread and butter in almost every game. Yeah, no, like every game. When you get to the Castle Age and you upgrade it to a Veteran Royal Knight, it has 4 melee armor and 4 ranged armor, just like the Knights and the Lancers of other civilization. But also here you got a terrific technology, Cantled Saddlers. That increases the bonus damage by plus 10. So you don't got that plus 3 damage after a charge, but plus 13. If you know the one chop of a knight does 20 damage, 10 bonus damage, that's 50% extra damage for a couple of seconds. That's really a lot. That's amazing. So if you take those 2 upgrades, the healing upgrade Chivalry and the Cantle Saddles, which gives a bonus damage for a short while, the Royal Knight is the perfect unit for hit and run tactics, short skirmishes, because then you can maximize those bonuses perfectly. So, the other units in feudal age are fine, but nothing really important to talk about. Of course, you can make spearmen if you encounter enemy cavalry. You're probably gonna make a lot of archers because other civs are gonna counter your royal knights with spearmen, and archers are the counter for spearmen. So we tend to go to School of Cavalry and build an archery range after immediately when we hit the second age. So we're going up to the third age, and we've got two choices: the Royal Institute and the Guildhall. For a really long time, your Guildhall was the bread and butter, and I do believe Guildhall is still the best, because the Guildhall generates resources over time. So these are free resources when a couple of resources are limited. Like food can be unlimited if you make enough farms. Wood, eventually you're gonna run out of trees, but the most maps have a lot of trees, so most games will be done before the trees run out. Stone is pretty limited, but you don't need that as much as food or wood, because you're gonna use it for keeps or you're gonna use it for walls. But gold is always useful. Gold is gonna secure you those extra strong units, upgrades, and gold is also pretty limited in most maps. So when we go Guildhall, most of the times we put it on food in the beginning, because French civilization is a very food heavy civilization. We can put it on stone and take it out at 800 for a keep, or take it out at 1100 for a keep with a second TC, or we're gonna put it on gold to ensure we got enough gold to build our royal knights, our arbaletiers, our siege units, and we're never gonna run out. The other landmark, the Royal Institute, houses a lot of technologies that are unique to the French, so you can already research some technologies which would be available in Imperial Age otherwise. The research is also 20% cheaper, so some good research stacks: Royal Bloodline, that increases the health of the cavalry by 35%, really strong. A lot of people underestimate this, and normally it's available at Imperial Age, so you got this in age sooner. The other one, Crossbow Stirrups, is really good. It's also an Imperial Age technology, and it reduces the reload time of arbaletiers by 25%. So every 4 shots you get a 5th shot for free. We do see some Royal Institute play more now than we did a couple of months ago, but you tend to go to Royal Institute if you already have an advantage when you're aging up. So if you're like 50-50, really even, it's better to take the Guildhall, because free resources, nothing can beat that. But if you know you're ahead a little, or by a lot, you can use that Royal Institute to close the games in a couple of minutes. Because if you're already ahead and you build that Royal Institute and immediately take Royal Bloodlines, and you make Crossbow Stirrups afterwards, and you make the Gambesons and the archery range and pop out some archers, you can do a dead push that's gonna win you the game. But that's if you've got a lead. So, going up that third age. So third age, Castle Age, we get those keeps. We do love keeps, because the keeps are gonna make our stables and archer ranges 20% cheaper. So you can put up like 8, maybe even 10 if you properly place it, buildings around them. So that's a lot of discount. You know, if you manage to place 10 buildings around it, you got a 200% discount on everything. In the longer run, in the longer game, that's gonna make a big difference, because resources, your macro, is gonna win games Micro is good to have, but macro is so important. We already talked a little bit about Royal Knight in the Castle Age, but the new unit in the Castle Age is the Arbaletier. So the Arbaletier, a unique crossbowman for the French civilization, and it has 1 melee armor. Most crossbowmen have 0, and it has 0 ranged armor, but it has a unique skill, Pavis. If you put down Pavis, the little shield you see in the picture, it gets 5 plus 5 ranged armor. And you can also resource Gambasson, and that increases the Arbaletier melee armor by plus 5. So if you resource Gambasson and you put down your Pavis shield, the Arbaletier has 6 melee armor and 5 ranged armor. That's more armor than your knights have. More armor than your Royal Knight, a normal Knight or a Lancer. So those Arbaletiers are really tanky. If you could get to the Castle Age with like a 2TC build and just mass produce Arbaletiers, there isn't really a counter for that. Mangonels are buffed again a bit, so those are a pretty good counter, but the massive armor you can gain with the Arbaletier is really hard to beat. So a mix of Royal Knights, Arbaletiers and some Springles against the Mangonels of the opponent is such a strong and hard to beat composition. The only thing to stop that a little bit is placing defensive keeps on your own to force out trebuchets, but that's only gonna stall time. If we look at the rest of the Castle Age, I talked about the keep. Monastery, you want to invest at 200 wood to get those relics, 150 gold for a monk, and the relics are also an infinite gold generation mechanic, so that's why they're really important to go for them. Siege Workshop in the Castle Age, nothing really strange, just the normal Springled, Mangonel, Trebuchet, Springles to counter the siege of the opponent, Mangonel for those blobs of infantry, especially those blobs of ranged infantry, and the Trebuchet to take down keeps or landmarks. Going up to the Imperial Age, so the most times we will go for the Red Palace. The Red Palace is a sort of a keep, and it has really high damage and placements, and each garrison unit adds an additional arbalest. So the Red Palace can easily take down a 100 pop population enemy army. That's how strong it is. So if you put up the Red Palace, he has to build bombards, cannons, trebuchets. He can't walk past it because the Red Palace will just mow down the entire army of your opponent. We also see some colors of artillery play, but not that much as the Red Palace. It produces Royal Artillery siege engines which do 20% more damage. But so you can think about the clockwork, the clock house of the Chinese civilization, but that's a landmark going to the 3rd age, and this is a landmark going to the 4th age. That's a big difference. And this one does more damage, but the Imperial Age of the French isn't that strong. So you got that Royal Cannon for those buildings. You got that Rebaldequin, which is really good against massed units, but it's very short range. The Royal Culverin, which is the counter for siege units, so it's your sort of upgraded Springled. So the last age, if you go up to the last age with either the Red Palace or the Colors of Institute was it right? Colors of Artillery. colors of artillery. By the time you get to Imperial Age, you have to be in a lead. If you're evenly matched with your opponent and you go into Imperial Age, French tend to lose. The strongest period of French is between 20 to 30 minutes, so that's a drag. If you manage to drag out Feudal Age or an early Castle Age, but if the game tends to go longer, most French games the French players gonna lose, because the Imperial Age doesn't offer really anything special, because even the cannons or the royal cannon, if you made the colors of artillery, bombards are just as good. So that's a bit about French civilization in general. So we had the introduction video, we had the self-introduction, we talked a bit about the French civilization in general. Let's look at some build orders. So let's talk a little bit about build orders. So in the beginning, when Age of Empires 4 came out, I was keeping my build orders in this Google spreadsheet, and I had build orders for all different kind of civilization. A lot of for the French, because that's my specialization, but also got some Rus or some Chinese and Abbasid English build orders. But nowadays you got a lot of build orders in on sites like H4Builder or RDS strategy build order websites. So let's take a look at that. So first build order I'm gonna look at, we got it over here. This is Hera's classic. Hera playing Age of Empires 2 again, but he played Age of Empires 4 for a while, made some builds, and this is one of his earliest builds, and also the first build I learned myself. In short, you're gonna go 8 on food, 5 on gold, 5 on wood, back on food. So you can take a screenshot of the picture if you want, then you can just analyze it for yourself. I'm gonna try to put those pictures in a file or on Reddit or some place. You can look at it, and let's show you the build and talk a little bit about the build while we're showcasing the build. So let's get to a game with an AI. So the 8 on food, 5 on gold, 5 on wood. That's the build in short. What's that gonna give you? It's gonna give you a pretty fast feudal age, around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're gonna see how fast we're gonna get it this time. We're gonna open with a second scout, of course. So villagers on foot, second scout, and the other scout is just gonna collect sheep. So 5 on gold and 5 on wood. How can I explain this? The moment you hit feudal age, you can immediately build a royal knight. That's an advantage. And after your royal knight finishes, you can immediately research chivalry. So you get your first knight out pretty quickly, because you're gonna have a pretty quickly feudal age, and you're gonna have a real quick chivalry, which gonna heal up your knight when it's taking damage when you're trying to kill villagers of the opponent. So that are the benefits of this build. That you can raid the opponent really early, that's one, and that you're gonna have a lot of health really early on, because chivalry is researched that early. So what's the disadvantage of this build? A disadvantage is your second knight gonna be out real late, because the chivalry upgrade takes 1 minute, I think. I thought it was 1 minute, but we're gonna check for sure if we're building the Skull of Cavalry. And your knight also takes 30 seconds to make, so you're gonna have your first knight in the face of opponent around the 5th minute mark, and then the second knight's gonna be there around 7 minutes or 6 minutes 30 seconds. So there's a lot of time between those two knights. And other disadvantage is you're gonna take wheelbarrow a bit later, because you're gonna build that knight and take chivalry first, and gonna take the wheelbarrow after that. So you got like a wheelbarrow around 7 or 8 minutes. That's not really the matter right now. The matter right now is taking wheelbarrow as quickly as you can. So let's take 3 villagers to build our landmark in a bit. So Skull of Cavalry, and back on gold after. So we found our opponent over here, so let's take a little peek at him. Oh, let's keep those sheep at our base, please. 5 on wood now, and then the next one gonna go on deer if it's possible, because the deer gathering rate is just higher than the berry rate. Doesn't really matter much for this showcase, but always something good to think about. And yeah, we're gonna put village on foot until like 13 on foot, and then we're probably gonna go back on wood again to support that archery range we're gonna build in the second age. Oh, I'm sorry, Scout, I didn't mean to hurt you. And now the next one gonna go on berries. So let's get out a bit. So French tend to play really aggressive, like relentlessly attack the opponent. Because you got those big advantages early feudal age and early castle age, and yeah, you know, you don't want to give your opponent the time to rest. So Skull of Cavalry almost kicking in, about 4 minutes 45 seconds. And our first knight's gonna be out. We can make an archery range. You tend to go for the archery range first, and the blacksmith after that. Simply because opponents tend to respond with spearmen against your royal knight, and yeah, you're gonna need archers to counter that. So chivalry coming in, and now we're just gonna try and kill some villagers. 13 on food, gonna put some on wood now. And this is the classic Hera opening. We're gonna talk about follow-ups later. Let's quit this game for now and look at our next build. Yeah, so this was the Hera build. We showcased that, and let's take a look at Divine's 2 town center opening. So DivineDFP in the latest patch, not the latest patch like a couple of days ago, but like a month ago, he was grinding the ladder with the French civilization and only playing this specific build. So we went 7 on food, 3 on gold, 5 on wood. Then the 3 gold villagers would make the landmark go back on food. Gold, go back on gold. The food villagers would make I'm explaining it wrong a bit. Let's take a look at this build. Yeah, the 3 gold villagers are gonna make the Skull of Cavalry. I'm explaining it the right way. and some food villagers go to stone together with the villagers from the town center. So in the end you got 4 on food, 5 on wood, 8 on stone. So DivineDFP, most players stop at 3 on a stone and make that second TC at the nearest hunt. DivineDFP went for 400 stone, so we could make 2 outposts in strategic locations and put arrow slits on it. That's very effective, especially against the English civilization, because outposts with arrow slits can match the range of the longbowman, so it was harder for the English player to pick off villagers if you place those outposts strategically. So let's get into a skirmish game and try this build out. So we're gonna play skirmish again, and doesn't really matter. Let's take the ruse, doesn't really matter, and start the game. So DivineDFP most of the time did this build with 1 scout opening. I myself like the second scout opening, just gives you so much flexibility, viability, because the second scout can collect sheep. That's always good for your food income. The second scout can also explore the map, so you know how the map looks like, and the second scout can also scout what the opponent is doing, and that information is just so important to have. That's a bit where the Age of Empires franchise is famous for, that they reward information a lot. So if you know your opponent is going cavalry, you can respond with spearmen. If you know your opponent is going archers, you can respond with cavalry. But it's always good to have a tab on your opponent to see what he's doing. So we only need 7 of food now. We do need that house, so let's make a house. And I'm not spamming my scouts. Normally you would really pay attention to the scouts if they collect all the sheep you see, and you're constantly telling them where to go to make sure you don't got idle time on them. But because this is just a showcase against an easy eye, I'm neglecting my scouts a bit, just so I can explain the build order a little bit better. So got 3 on gold now. Gonna have 5 on wood. Those 3 gold pairs, let's put them on 7 so we can easily make the landmark when we want to. So we're finding a lot of sheep again, that's always good. Yeah, sometimes you got those games where you just don't find any sheep. I had a game against an Beasty player, Limonade, and I found 3 sheep and he found 22. And when I looked at the replay, my scout was just trailing his scouts just out of range, so I didn't see his scout in front of me, and just really unlucky with the sheep. It was really funny to see, but also unlucky for me. So almost got 5 on wood, almost enough food for our landmark. So our gold villagers are collecting a little bit more gold, because the arrows also cost 25 gold. The School of Cavalry in the making. A little downtime on my sheep just because I'm so late with bringing sheep back, and normally you just want to manually kill some sheep to effectively increase gathering time. So this one already had to be on stone because we're already having one too many on wood. I'm gonna have 3 villagers from food to stone, and you immediately see I don't use this build very often. I actually only use it against the English civilization, because a lot of English players go that late feudal age nowadays, and let's do this. That late feudal age was talking about, so I'm feeling comfortable to punish that late feudal age with a second TC. So we know where our deer's at. It's over here. So we're probably gonna put it on this or at the wood. That are those strategic choices which defines top players with sub top players like us. And now we're gonna go back on food. So you're gonna build a mill at least. So normally you got like fuel age around 5 minutes. So I haven't executed the build perfectly. Let's say that. Do you think we got around 400 now? Oh no, a little bit more. 8 times 2 is 16, so we need 3. And we got that now. And let's build our second town center on top of the hunt. So we're gonna have a lot of more villagers on food in a minute. And so we're gonna put villagers from our town center to the wood, so we can make that archery range. So if you got food to spare, you can make some warrior knights if you want. We got gold to spare, so we can also choose to get upgrades like the wheelbarrow. After this, you know, it's really how you wanna go. A lot is possible because you're gonna have 16 on food, so you're gonna have big food income after this. And it's 6 minutes 40 seconds, so most English players are only 40 seconds into feudal age now. And we already got our second TC up, so yeah, you can choose. Let's do the double board axe, make that archer range now for the aggression that's gonna come. And just put out a lot of units now. So if we want to support that double archer range, we're gonna have at least 10 villagers on wood, because you're gonna need 5 on wood for consistent archery production, and you need some more on wood for your houses and outposts and other stuff. So yeah, that's what DivineDFP does. It like places a strategic outpost like over here somewhere, and make some archers, make some knights. Oh, it's getting pulled. Gonna need a little bit of food. Oh, we already have a little bit of food extra. This is fine. Yeah, maybe a little bit on gold extra now. Yeah, build a second archer range. Like put up an defensive tower over there. And now it really depends on the reaction of your opponent. So we got like 6 on gold, that's enough to support one School of Cavalry. But we do need some more on wood now, so you can redistribute the way you want. That's about it. So pretty high on food now. But that's fine because French really food heavy. Making some arrow slits. They are pretty fine for the big push of the English player. So let's quit the match and look at the next build. So we had Hera defined with Beasty. It's a pretty fresh build of Beasty. He had this YouTube video how to play French. He goes 8 on food, 3 on gold, 5 on wood. The 3 food villagers are gonna make the School of Cavalry and gonna transfer to the gold for the 6 gold villagers for constant night production. You got that 5 on wood for that constant archer production. And you're gonna have 13 on food because you're gonna need 8 to support constant night production. You're gonna need 4 for constant village production. You're gonna need 3 for constant archer production. So you're gonna need like, yeah, he puts 13 on food because you're gonna have excess surplus on food while building those villagers. So he took that into account. So he's already sending villagers to wood when you hit 13 food villagers, because he knows, okay, I've got like 400 food in the bank, so I'm gonna support my wood a little bit before I go back on food, even when the numbers aren't perfect. And that's balancing out your surplus resources. So let's get to the game and take a look. So quick peek. Doesn't really matter what we're up against. I do want a normal map and start this game. So Beastie Cuties build that's gonna give you a consistent knight and archer production, and then you're gonna add in what you want. Of course you're gonna add in a blacksmith after that first archer range, but if you want to build a second archer range after that, that really depends on what the enemy is doing. You could also add in a second stable if you prefer that. You just have to redistribute your villagers because you're gonna need 16 on food and 12 on gold to sustain double stable. So that's really hard to do in the early game because of the lack of economy. That's also a reason to go archers first. So let's just send it around because we're not playing that seriously. Almost 8 on food. So Beastie Cutie tends to make a house immediately. I think it's fine if you make it a little bit later, but there's also a little bit of personal preferences. And we're doing like general ideas of build. Because if you're playing at the top pro level, like the top 100, every little detail is gonna matter. But at our level, like, you know, rank 300 and below, we already make a lot of macro and strategic mistakes. So those really little differences aren't gonna make us win or lose the game. Um, for example, I saw a video building a palisade wall, and at the edges, if you micro it right, you could save like 10 wood, 5 wood on each edge. And I was thinking to myself, okay, fun, 10 wood, that's not gonna win me the game. um, you do have some tricks like the Chinese mill trick, that's gonna give you like 60 extra wood. That's a good trick, and 60 wood is a lot in the first minute. But like the English, you can build 8 farms or 7 or 10 farms around your mill. And I read a post on Reddit where I read if you have 10 farms on a mill instead of 8, after 10 minutes you got 8 food more. And I'm like, okay, 8 food's not gonna win me the game. So let's manually kill some sheep so we get that efficient gathering. And we got that School of Cavalry. And yeah, we're doing this build a little bit wrong again, because we'll put one too many on gold. That's just because I'm talking too much, and so let's make a mill and go there, and you're gonna build a house for me, and you're gonna go on food. Yeah, we made it alright again, but this is because I'm talking so much that I make these little mistakes. It's not gonna be a big deal, but it's always nice to execute it as good as we can, because we're a little bit late on our wheelbarrow now. You see the big difference? You're already researching wheelbarrow at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And with Hera's classic build, we were researching wheelbarrow at 7 minutes. So let's put them a little bit closer. So 13 on food and then on wood again. We can even take some hunt. We've got some really safe hunt here in the east part of the map, but it's really far away from the opponent. And this hunt to the south, it's okay, but our opponent's over here, so it's easier reachable than going through your base and the hunt in the back. It's always good to take to have a look at the map and see what you can exploit, because you could exploit these deer in the front, but that's hard to get to this deer in the back. So archery range immediately warriors up. Oh, through the ages we had an achievement. Well, that's funny, but wasn't the ID. I didn't even know it was still tracked. So I went to the next age for 500 times already. That's a lot. So, and we immediately can build that second knight. That's really nice. That's what I really like about this build. You can immediately produce that extra knight. So we're missing on 1 food, so we have to do a manual drop, and we can make archers. And we've got 12 food, almost 13. We can raid with our knight and a scout. We can even rally our archery range over here if you wanna, and kill those prelates. I take chivalry. Most of the time I take chivalry after 3 knights, but you can also take it after 2 or 1. Also depends a little bit on how much damage you take. You know, the more damage you take, the earlier you want that chivalry. So let's see if we can harass him a little bit. Archer coming out, and you know, we're just flooding units to wood now. Maybe refresh it sometime. Yeah. Chop out some villagers because we can. So this is what makes the French so strong. Like, look at how many damage we got from the town center, and we're still fine. We're gonna need an extra house, that's for sure. So we responded with spearmen. See the spearmen over there, and we got archers as our own response. So our archers gonna snipe those spearmen when our knights are just killing villagers. Chivalry kicking in, you know, they're healing really nice. And we can pick them off. The predator's gonna heal them probably. And you can just kite them. This is easy AI, so it doesn't really look at our health of our knights, but we can add in a blacksmith now, and we got some excess gold for those upgrades. And we're doing just fine. There's nothing really much our opponent can do against this. So that's enough showcase of this build, I think. Let's tap out and go to our next build. Almost lost a knight. That's really important as a French. Never lose a knight. Knights are so expensive and so important. You just can't afford to lose them. So we've got 2 builds left. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about follow-ups and common decisions, and then we're gonna take the end of our guide. We're already 15 minutes in. It's gonna be a long guide. So we got this build by Snoopa, the professional scout opening. We saw that in a month like December, January, it was really popular. It's a little bit less popular now, but still a fine build. You're able to get all those hunts to your town center, so you got safe food gathering against aggressive play of your opponent, and gathering the deer also means you've got a better food gathering source than farms, berries or sheep. So 7 on food, 3 on gold, build a mill and on gold, make 10 on food, so 10 on food, 4 on gold, and then 3 food villages gonna make School of Cavalry, 2 food villages go to wood, next to wood, and when School of Cavalry finishes, you can choose to either build 1 or 2 knights and wait your opponent to keep it a secret you're going professional scouts, or if you feel safe because your opponent's doing some kind of defensive play, you can just queue up 2 scouts and take those hunts. 4 scouts is the most efficient number because you got 7 deers, so if you have 3 scouts you have to go a 3rd time, and 7 scouts is just too big of an investment, so 4 scouts the best number. So let's try this build. 7 food, 3 gold, 4 gold, 10 food. Yeah, let's try this because I hardly ever play this build, but for you guys I'm willing to make an exception. Doesn't really matter. Start the game. 7 on food, 3 on gold, 1 gold villager gonna build a mill, then 2 more on food. Yeah, 7 on food, 3 on gold, 2 more on food. Okay, so queue up that 2nd scout so we can get all those hunts later. We need to explore the map a little bit better now because we need to know where all those hunts are at. So 7 on food. So 1 building in the house. And so we got 7 on food, and we're gonna need 3 on gold now, then 2 more on food, and then 1 gonna build a mill on gold. So next one coming out. I'm gonna build a mining camp. Yeah. So we're gonna select 3 villagers for our school of cavalry. Gonna try to manually kill some sheep for better, more efficient production. Little bit late with our 3rd villager on gold. Distracted with talking and doing other stuff. So I really like using shift commands. You know, do this and do that and do that, and then I don't have to think about them for a long time anymore. So we see 1 deer over here, we see 1 deer over there. Normally when you're playing against the rules, you're gonna shoot those deer to prevent the bounty, but this is just an AI game, so I'm fine. So almost 9 of food. Oh, let's not walk to a town center. That's not a wise idea. And 1 gonna build a mill and gold. And after that we're gonna put 1 on food more, and then 2 on wood. That's the general idea. So you're gonna build my mill and go to gold. You two go to wood and school of cavalry, and after this we're gonna go back on food. So for example the berries. 2 food villagers to wood. Okay, and do we have another one? He's almost at 10. So we're still missing our 2nd deer patch. New villagers go on food if we got 4 on wood, but we're distracted again. So let's look if we can drop on minery. Yeah, you're gonna build a house and then go on food. Let's already kill the deer, just because we can. And when our Skull of Cavalry is up, I'm gonna resource those professional scouts. So we can already take a wheelbarrow. And we took wheelbarrow a bit late, so we're gonna have a problem with our professional scouts. So let's, for the build, cancel wheelbarrow for now and go professional scouts first. And yeah, you could also go on go for that Royal Knight first. So we can't queue that up yet. We're lacking on food. And come on, 10 more food. Yes. So we're waiting on our professional scouts now. And let's distribute a bit to 2 wood now, so we can build a house and build that archery range, because that's most of the times the typical response. And we can use some wood. So if you're really feeling really confident, you could immediately take the deer patch of the enemy. Like the English player only gets full age about the same time you'll finish the professional scouts. So let's get those. And now we're just gonna make knights, and we're just gonna drop them at our base. So already queue up. Like I want wheelbarrow first. Can already queue up chivalry if we wanna. And put some on extra gold for that constant knight production. And the knight can already harass. And we're just gonna collect there. That's all we're gonna do. I'm just gonna drop them off at our town center. So this is the general idea of the Snoopa's professional scout build. Just securing all those hunts for a safe, good food gathering resource. And you already see we're getting a surplus of food, so that's a nice thing. That's about all I could tell you about this build. To be honest, I don't play this build a lot. So this is gonna be all I'm telling you. Let's go to the last build then. So the last build, I saw Kasva doing this in a replay because I was having trouble against English, and I really like this build of his, so I tried to put it in a description, in a build order description, because I used H4 builder for these build orders. I took this one from Beasty from Reddit, and this is an RTS builder website, also from Reddit. So the thing Kasva did was, instead of going 6 on gold, it would send the food villagers back onto food, and therefore go a little bit early on wood, like 3 villagers more early, and it would take the eco upgrades, like would take horticulture first or double products first, sometimes take specialized pick, but most of the times went into blacksmith for that iron undermesh, for that +1 range defense against the English. That's really good because they mash longbowmen like bananas. Let's just give it a go, just to showcase you a bit. And it's pretty much the same start as Beasty, because Beasty also starts with 8 on food, 3 on gold, 5 on wood, but the difference is those food villagers that build the landmark go back on food. That's the biggest difference. And you go a big mass of horsemen with archers. Even then I like to put pressure on opponent to whittle down the mass of longbows, just to ensure they don't get a mass of like 15 or 20 longbows. And I tend to see men-at-arms as a counter for this unit composition, which is fine, because when you got some eco upgrades and you got that iron ornaments, you can put some more villagers on gold, or maybe even earlier transition into knights. Knights are decent counter for men-at-arms. So let's do the build a bit, talk a little bit about follow-ups, some common decisions, and then we're gonna close this video. So We still want to play French. Let's play against the Delhi, for example. Dry Arabia, standard map. Let's get into this build. So what I really like about this build is that the horsemen produce quicker than knights and they are cheaper, so you can evenly match the mass of units. That was my biggest problem. If he would do a push around 10 minutes, he would be there with like 50 longbowmen and 10 spearmen, and I like 4 knights, but you know, it was really hard to micro that properly, because he would just right click the knights with the spearmen, and he had 10 of them. It was really hard to get around them, and with horsemen I tend to overwhelm him better, the English opponent. Build a house. And we want 8 on food, so let's put 1 on this one. Look a little bit for sheep, but still a showcase, so it's not the most important thing. 3 on gold now. And normally you tend to look better at your scout just to see if you're missing any sheep. Yeah, it happens to me all the time when I watch a replay and I see my scout missing like 5 sheep, because like this, your scout is walking over here, the sheep's over there, and he doesn't pick it up. So that's why it's really important to keep a high APM on the scouts. Here again, yes, we're picking it up. So now it's just a matter of maintaining economics. And do like to calculate more. You got that AOE4world.com for the ranking, and you got that tab with tools, and you got that calculator for units. So if you want to support one stable with consistent knights, you need 8 on food, 6 on gold. You want to consistently make archers, you're gonna need 3 on food, 5 on wood. If you want to make consistent villager production, you're gonna have 4 on wood. It helps me redistribute my villagers better. So when I have a surplus of one resource, like food, you can add in I'm thinking too much things at the same time. You can add in some wood villagers before you go back on food, even if you haven't the perfect number for food yet. So there's a little bit of flexible macro you have to do, and you can only learn that by playing and just watching your games and thinking about it. So let's build a house, and almost got that wheelbarrow incoming. So something I always think about is, do I go a knight first, or do I immediately go for an eco upgrade? I do like going a knight first, because I tend to meet more spearmen. The enemy tends to make more spearmen when he sees a knight than when he sees a horseman. If he immediately sees a horseman when I'm trying to scout or raid or something, a lot of the times they immediately build men at arms as a counter. too many on wood because we're distracted talking again. 3 too many on wood. So it's gonna be an eco upgrade for sure. We need 13 of food first before we go. So we at least can make that archer range with no problems. And wheelbarrow's almost finished, so let's put on horticulture next. And we're gonna do with the horseman opening because we had too many people on wood. That's what you probably get if you're making a video for over an hour. You're gonna get distracted, your concentration gonna be a little bit less, and you make mistakes. There's also something I admire that the pros can do, that they can play like 12 hours and still play really well. So we're gonna need some wood for a house first. And we want to have the double broad axe after this. And we can. So 6 minutes. That's the same timing an English player would have. And we already have wheelbarrow. We've got horticulture coming in almost. We got a double broad axe coming in. I do tend to take specialized pick because you only got 3 villagers on gold. That's not worth it. The general rule of thumb is that you need 15 villagers on a resource for it to be beneficial to take that eco upgrade. So we see we got really low on our resources, only gold and wood a little bit higher, but we're doing really well. And we can use the wood to add in the blacksmith. Maybe should have built a house first, but can't have everything in life. And we're ready to take an upgrade again if we look at our gold. So I want to really take that iron undermesh, that +1 defense upgrade. And we got it incoming now. We got 13 on wood, so we're gonna put a little bit on food again. And yeah, between this now it's horsemen and archers against the spearmen and longbowmen probably. That's pretty much all I can tell you about this build, because we got our +1 range defense incoming. We already have our horticulture, our double broad axe. We can take a specialized pick if we want to. We can even add in knights if we want to. There's just really a lot of options for us. Could even take siege engineering if we want to ram him, if we feel really confident. So that's about it. That's the showcase of this build, at least. So these were all the builds I wanted to show you. I'm gonna add in the YouTube videos or VODs or Twitch channels in the description. Yeah, because you have to give credit to the people who make and think of these builds. I do a little bit of theory crafting myself, but not that intensive as these people. So let's make myself a little bit bigger, just to talk about common follow-ups. Yeah. So follow-ups, as the French, normally you have the School of Cavalry, archer range, blacksmith, and after that most of the times you go that second archer range. because your opponent most of the times has a mass of spearmen, and you're gonna need those archers to one-shot all those spearmen. If you manage to one-shot all those spearmen, you're in a really good position as the French player. After that, it's a little bit personal preference, but also dependent on what your opponent is doing. If your opponent is going a combination of horsemen and archers, in theory, a second stable and putting some extra villagers on food and gold so you can support those two stables and two archer ranges, the unit composition knight archer, theoretically it beats horsemen, spearmen, simply because the knights are so strong and you can just pick off all those spearmen one by one. You could also choose, instead of that second stable or that second archer range, to put in a barracks and make spearmen. Yes, then you're gonna need 6 on food and 2 on wood, and you have that tri-comp, that 1-1-1 comp, like the Terran always did in StarCraft 2. And after that you can also decide what you want. Maybe you like ram all-ins, then you need some more on wood, need the siege engineering, and you're gonna go all in and try to bring the enemy to his knees or lose. You can also go like a midway, like raiding a bit, trying to do economic damage, build up to castle age behind it, and then when you go into castle age, gather stones so you can keep drop in his face and do like a really early castle age all in. If the enemy is really turtling, you can even go keep with a second TC and then put keeps at the sacred sites and go for that sacred site victory. So there are a lot of options to do, and it's really a matter of personal preference. Than the best reaction possible. For example, if you're playing against B.I.G and you see him going a second TC and the economic wing, you know he's gonna really get villagers that are 50% cheaper, so he's gonna outboom you when you stay on one TC. Then you can go double TC because you got a faster villager production to match his resource discount on villagers. So that's one option you can do. So you see the Abbasid going for a second TC, you're gonna make a second TC yourself. But you can also choose to build a lot of military, build a ram and try to take down that second TC, because the second TC only has 2,400 health. But even those are personal preferences. Of course you got some common decisions, like if you play against the English, we built a lot of longbowmen. The first blacksmith upgrade you want to get is that +1 range defense iron undermesh. And if you're playing against Delhi, who wants to go out and take those sacred sites, and he mainly has spearmen, you want to get that steeled arrow +1 ranged attack upgrade. If you've got a opponent who's really turtling and you can't really get through, I like to, that's a personal preference again, but I like to take those eco upgrades while applying pressure. So it's really hard to tell what the best follow-ups are, because a lot is depending on the civ you're playing against, the map you're playing on, and the strategy your opponent is choosing. That's why it's so important to scout the opponent with your scouts, to know what he's doing so you can react to it. That's one way to play the game. You can also have a game plan on your own and stick by that. Like I had this Rus build on the Mongolian Heights that was like going a fast castle age and keep drop next to his base, and with trebuchet try to take down his landmarks. But you know that's dependent on what style of play you like. So that's the end of the guide. A whole lot of guide, 1 hour and 20 minutes. If you like this guide, it really helps me out if you would subscribe on my YouTube channel. And you can even follow me on Twitch, on my Twitch channel. It's all there in the description. And I hope you learned a lot about it. And I'll see you next time. See you later.